Thank you, Robin, for agreeing to have a chat. We're sat in church in St Andrew's in Hedden, and we're at the beginning of Generosity Week, which is a fairly new thing, and we probably don't all understand everything about it. And we thought it would be really good to film a little bit of a conversation between ourselves about our church and a little bit about parish share, because to most people, parish share just means nothing. So I've got some questions, and I'm hoping you're going to make things seem very simple and clear. The first thing I want to ask about is, we decided as a church that our new vision statement would be St Andrew's Church, a place for everyone. I was wondering, what does that mean to you?
Well, the Church of England, being the established church in England, is open to everybody of faith or no faith at all. We are open for everybody. That means that they can come to a service, or they can come into the church and sit quietly and have a reflection of their own private thoughts. And indeed, at Holy Communion, those that weren't receiving Holy Communion were invited to come forward earlier this morning for a blessing, and some did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me it's also about us thinking about what our church life's about, and it not just being about worship on a Sunday, but actually finding some really exciting things to do in the coming months and years ahead. So yes. I think we're at the beginning of an exciting journey.
It is, and trying to be as outward looking as we can. We want to be an inclusive organisation, not being seen as rather exclusive, tidied away in a lovely building, but we've got to be careful that we're looking out of the building, not inwards.
Absolutely. So there's been a wonderful booklet put together called Parish Share Explained, and I'm hoping that you're going to help us to understand a little bit about what's in here. So let's begin with the real basics. What is parish share?
Parish share is how we enable God's mission in this part of the Church of England. This part of the Church of England is the Newcastle Diocese, and therefore the parish share enables the Newcastle Diocese to function with 172 parishes spread across 12 different deaneries. So we're in the Corbridge Deanery, and in the Corbridge Deanery here we have Hedden on the Wall St Andrew.
Thank you. And what is parish share used for?
Parish share supports both the current ministry, future ministry, and the organisation of the diocese. So it actually produces the money that pays the minister's stipend, housing, pension piece, and all the other support functions that are needed to go on top of that in what we call church house. But we do need to have safeguarding, somebody who can help with the finance and so forth.
And in layman's terms, what's a stipend?
Stipend, very good question. Stipend means salary. And there are quite a lot of people who don't use the word. It's a very good question you ask, because it's stipend is to the people who receive it. It's very special to you. You're ordained. And the stipend is quite a meaningful expression.
Yeah.
But to the ordinary people in the middle pews, you're right, salary.
Yeah, definitely. It does mean I can carry out my role, doesn't it?
Yes.
And I can be available.
Yes.
I can remember somebody, when they were helping me train, say it's about you being allowed to be and enabled to be available to do the work within the church and within your ministry without needing to go and get another job.
Yeah.
So just looking at the diagram that there is in this booklet, it's quite helpful because it does break down about the overall budget and how it's spent. I think people might be quite interested to know sort of where the money goes.
Well, 54% of it goes on clergy stipend, pension and their national insurance. You pay, that's like any other employee. 10% goes on clergy housing. Now, the parish pay the clergy council tax, the cost of living, but the houses have got to be provided, they've got to be kept, they've got to be redecorated from time to time, roofs need mending, and so the 10% goes on clergy housing. Some 4% goes on clergy training and activities like that. 6% actually goes back to the national church. Which is a bit odd because the national church puts quite a lot in and we send some of it back, but that's a peculiarity. And 26% of it goes on support for parish ministry. That's quite a big figure, but that is support because there's quite a lot that goes on in the church that isn't in the parish. For example, we have people in hospitals, priests, we help that, in prison, and we've got training organisations, and we're training the next generation, so one day there will be a future priest in charge.
Yeah.
And we've got to plan for that.
Would that also cover the safeguarding?
Yes,
and
it would.
The children's team that I'm part of?
Yes, it would.
And I know that as a vicar, I find those members of staff really helpful and really useful, because if there's ever a challenge comes up, I can contact them and there's experts we can speak to, which I think is helpful to the churches but also to our wider communities.
And indeed, all our safeguarding training, we've got Carol Butler, who is the safeguarding advisor for the diocese, and she really knows her subject well, and she's very good at interpreting things from the national church so they can be applied sensibly and sensitively in each of our parishes. We're very lucky.
Absolutely. Could you say just a couple of sentences about the principle of parish share and the idea of how some churches may find it difficult to pay parish share and others may find it actually quite easy to pay even more?
Absolutely. The principle is that we all, as a parish, try and give as much as we possibly can. Some parishes have considerable wealth and they can give a lot of money. Some parishes have very little and they still will get ministry, but they won't be able to give as much. So those that can give a considerable amount will be helping those who can't. That is how we share in this life of Christ.
Thank you. And I think that's really important to share for people to understand that it's not a bill, it's about generosity, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And being able to just give as much or as little as you actually can.
Yes.
Do we want to say anything about how parish share is calculated, or do you think we've covered most of it?
Well, I think we said most of it, but parish share is calculated and will be calculated in the future by actually allocating to each deanery, this is how much Corbridge Deanery is costing the diocese to exist. So it will be the cost of the dean and all the priests in it. That will how it comes, and then you can see, and then our share of the so-called overheads.
Yes.
And they've got to work that one out, because do you do that by parish, per parish, divide it by 172 parishes? That wouldn't, in my view, work very well, because some of our parishes have got less than 100 people in them, in the total population. And other parishes have got a population of 30,000.
Yeah.
So we got to balance it out somehow a bit more equitably.
So it is actually quite a complicated...
It's a complicated thing. The diocese is working on that. Very clever people are working through that, and will no doubt make proposals to the Board of Finance, and then the diocese synod will approve.
It's complicated, but for a good reason, because it's complicated to make sure it's fair.
Yeah, fair and understandable. Because the whole piece about parish share is to make sure that everything is absolutely open and transparent. And simple language.
And that actually is one of the reasons we've made this video now and had a discussion together, because we as a church in Hedden want to make sure that what we're doing when we say, are you able to make a donation, or if we put a plate out for collections in services. And in a way where we're asking people to donate, we really want people to understand where that money's going.
Yes.
And yes, there's the everyday costs of Headon Church, but there is also this mysterious thing called parish share, which doesn't need to be mysterious.
Yes.
So thank you for having a chat and helping us understand a little bit more.
Thank you.